Chip Chat. Welcome to Chip Chat. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez. How are you, Tez?
I am living good.
I'm switching it up a little bit because
you just went completely
because we've got somebody here.
We do.
Who's eclipsing both of us.
Yeah.
But you're here. You're welcome back, by the way. You were gone
so much.
last week. You took a week off.
Took a week off, yeah.
We were discussing women's curling last week.
See, he set me up for that one.
Which is true.
You were, yeah.
And Tez was like, you know what? Women's sports, not a thing I need to pay a lot of attention to.
Read the
so
text.
he just left.
Read the text that I sent you about that. What did I actually say?
He wanted to support them and give them their opportunity to speak without him there.
Exactly. It should be less men voices on this show. That is what we're speaking
Also, you
about.
did a whole episode of No Filter Sports about women's sports, didn't you?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
So you try to paint that at me. And I had a wonderful dinner with my partner. So
well, there you go. So
thank you.
My best efforts
to
throw you under the proverbial metro bus. That's
we'll
coming up later. All right. So anyway, why are we so excited?
Got a legend in the house.
We do. Yeah, he's looking around for it. All right. So basically, this is Ray Suarez is here. Let's just say
there you go.
Somebody who the two of us have basically had talking to us for most of our lives.
Yeah.
And let's just say award-winning journalist. You know him from the last 350 years of TV and radio, including CNN, ABC, and most importantly to you and I, PBS NewsHour, and all of the various public radio things that we have ever heard. So that's very, very cool. We're going to talk to him.
Reporting. It's amazing work there.
Yeah. And like rode Al Jazeera all the way to the ground, basically, until they just turned off the transmitter while he was talking. I think that's actually how that went.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive. That's journalistic integrity right there.
Think of the last scene in Dr. Strangelove.
Yes, right.
And that's me.
You didn't have the hat, though.
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Not like King Kong.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk to Ray until he gets tired of us and walks out.
Yeah. See how fast we got running bet on how long that'll be.
Yeah, that's true. We also have news, and we have soccer stuff, and we're going to set Brian and Tez up to battle it out over turnstiles at Metro Center. Well, not Metro Center yet, but eventually. It's at Fort Totten, but it's going to, yeah.
I was scared watching that video. I was like, am I in this video? And that's why they play. Because I could easily,
well, because remember your profit center theory about using the videos.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. So that's all there.
How we're going to fund free public transportation.
That's right. Okay, so needless to say, it's a packed show.
Yeah, look at us, and we're moving on time.
We're on time. We're trying.
Yeah.
We're going to have some professionalism here.
We're going to try.
Also, it's really hot out.
Ray, if you weren't here, I would have done the whole show on climate change.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing.
Don't worry. That's pretty much what this show's about anyway.
Yeah.
Look at these dead-ass birds.
Yeah.
But if it's hot out and you needed, like, a way to cool down, and you're maybe a little hungry at the same time, could I offer you the newest confection from Good Humor, the Frozen Mitchsicle?
I wasn't expecting that.
Just walked right into that one.
That made me laugh, actually.
Like a turnstile at Fort Totten.
I don't think that we should be even laughing at that because I had a conversation with someone today around that where it's not helpful to.
No, it's not helpful. We wish him well.
The people he represents a state in this fine union that has a person who's just frozen.
That's true.
He was frozen.
Yeah, well, we don't want his junior counterpart taking over. So I don't think that's going to happen anyway. But anyway, okay. I had to get that joke out of there because it's
finally. I feel.
I felt frozen to it. I didn't have a good way out of it. It's very cold humor, to be honest.
Look, I'm gonna continue on.
I'll eat Mitch McConnell.
Like corn on the cob.
You know, I say the joke because I want the sound effect, but it ended up very stiff, and I don't feel like that was good.
Stop it. Let it go.
It was
Let it go.
You know, it's the worst thing in radio. It's like dead air.
Oh God.
But it's even worse on television because everybody can see it.
Dude, oh my God.
So anyway, you got a word?
I mean, nothing that would be appropriate after that.
That's exactly right. That's how we're going.
There's nothing appropriate. Yeah, I got a word.
All right. I've got a word. We'll see if this works at all. So sit back, grab some
Oxygen.
It's coup time. You're listening to the best show, the only show, Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
I'll eat Mitch McConnell.
Welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's popping out?
Hanging out with us tonight is the great Ray Suarez. Say hi, Ray.
Hello. How is everybody?
We're hot.
It is hot in this studio.
Yeah.
But
We're trying our best.
I got this elegant container.
Yes.
It's very elegant.
All right. I'm
It's a
I'm
sippy
ready
cup.
to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Look, he feels like just like one of like.
He fits right
fits
in.
right into this foolishness that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, where does this rank on like the
Of,
levels of like
Cool
the
NPR
lowest?
people that have come
No, like the level
on
of
our
the-
show. Oh, for him.
Yeah, for him. No.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of here. No.
Is this
It's,
the...
look up mountaintop experience.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I want to know: is there anything like what's
the opposite of
like?
that?
What has been lower than this show that you've been on?
Antonym.
Yeah. What is the lowest? Where is it? Where in the
Even
world?
college radio is better than this.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot better, actually.
lot better.
College radio is really good.
Yeah.
Can be.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It used to feel very handmade and improvisational.
Yeah.
But then all these people got the idea that they had to earn a living after they got out
Right.
of college, and it really professionalized up. So when I was in college radio, my first GM was Marconi.
Yeah,
So to
sure,
give you
of
an
course.
idea
Yeah,
how
that's
long
right.
ago it
It was broadcasting from that ship out in the... Yeah.
we just tried stuff. We threw spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick, and a lot of people ended up making a living anyway.
Right.
But I don't think there's that same lack of risk aversion.
Shout out to a few decent college radio stations. So WTMD in Towson, Maryland, still dynamite college radio, and Fordham's college radio station when you're in the right part of New York and can pick it up because it's hard. It bounces off the buildings the wrong way or whatever. It's dynamite college radio. Not so much for all the people who went there. Just saying, there's that one guy. We wish he didn't go there. But yeah, Fordham
Columbia
radio.
Station.
Yeah.
It's KCR.
Yeah.
Excellent station.
So anyway, okay.
The radio show I did before this show was on. It was in WRGW.
Yeah.
RGW, so. Yeah, no. And it was on a Thursday, too. I don't know what Thursday nights.
You're just a Thursday radio guy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Thursday is the best day.
Radio guy. You're stretching it right now.
Well, you've been on this show for 2 years.
That is true.
That's a pretty long
It's a long
time.
time.
It's almost as long as any of the other co-hosts.
Still
Okay,
here.
now we've come to the part of the show called The Rundown. This is where I tell you about some stuff that's going on in the news. If we were real radio people,
Yeah.
it would sound like this. Oh, stand by. We are real radio people. This is going great.
Wouldn't sound.
Thanks
like
for coming by, Ray.
It's so good.
We used to have a drop with you, but now...
Oh, my. Oh.
Oh, no, that's the breaking news.
Perfect. Yes, this is so good. I am enjoying this so
From
much.
Beltway Radio and beyond in Washington, D.C., I'm J. Scott Smith. And this is the part of the hour where I tell you some stuff that's going on in the news.
There you go.
I can't wait to listen back to those next 5 minutes.
Now,
Oh, my God.
Before we get into the
Yes.
actual stories we have,
Yes.
there has been some sort of late breaking developments in news like today, yesterday into today. Okay. Let's go in order of age. The country of Niger is in trouble. There's a coup going on. We're not totally sure whether the president is still in power or safe or not. He was elected democratically in a relatively decently run election that people are pretty confident that it wasn't, one of those phony baloney ones. And he was deposed kind of, maybe, by the military. We're not totally sure. But it is important for two reasons. One, there's a sizable American troop presence in Niger running some drone bases and fighting some bad guy terrorists in that part of North Africa or Northwest Africa, if you want to think of it. Mali, Burkina Faso, bad area right now, troublesome. The other reason that this is, of course, very interesting to us is how many people on Fox News are going to get fired for intentionally mispronouncing the name of this country.
I mean, it happens on baseball broadcast. If you know the good old that sound was amazing.
If you're an announcer and Nick Castellanos gets up,
it's over with. Yeah,
you just freeze. You're just like, oh my God, this guy's what's the record? He's got like 4 people fired. Yeah. He happens to be at the plate when these guys say bigoted, reprehensible shit.
Racist, homophobic.
And so they're in the middle of...
and I love it because it's some baseball, they still go through with the call.
Of course.
Of course. There's nothing.
Like, look,
they still go there. They just dropped a crazy word out, and you're like, okay.
And it's a long fly ball from Castellanos. Like
Home run!
They just walk right through it. Yeah. Well, they're professionals,
They are.
Okay, so that's one bit of news. The other bit of news that is breaking tonight is that Jack Smith, special prosecutor running the DOJ's efforts to throw the former guy under the jail, we all thought he was going to charge January 6th stuff this week. He did not do that. He okey-doked all of us and instead brought new charges relating to Mar-a-Lago. I think it was 3 more.
I think it's a total of 40.
Well, yeah, right. So he was at 37. He got 3 more and added a new co-conspirator.
Along with what's the other guy?
We've got Walt Nada, and who's the new guy?
D'Oliveira.
Right.
Oh God, this is a cast of characters.
It's who I want to speak up for a second. People are mischaracterizing as a maintenance man. I'm a maintenance man. We're not. That's bullshit. Stop calling us that. We're technical professionals.
There you go. Yeah, stand up here.
Hey,
professionals.
Y'all go fix your own air conditioning. You think that we're just some toilet punching whatever?
Look.
Go ahead.
That's the person you need to be cool with.
Yeah.
And any of those.
You better be nice to your maintenance man.
Yeah. If you look.
He may be the guy who engineered the sudden mishap with the water.
Right.
That suddenly flooded the area where the boxes were stored. He also may be.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. This is the part of the show where we do wild speculation.
Yeah,
we do this a lot.
Reckless speculation.
The guy who erased the security tapes that would have shown the boxes being moved around with a time code that would have indicated it was after the DOJ
asked for
requested
them.
The return of
That's
the
right.
boxes. So a pretty significant player, perhaps.
And interestingly, the coverage on this is still emerging, right? But one of the things that Ray and I were talking about before the show was that when prosecutors ask somebody a question, they already know the answer. Yeah. They just want to see if the guy is either going to lie about it or close the loop. And what is obvious here is that they found some of the people who executed the orders that the co-conspirators, all 3 of them, were involved in, and they leaned on them and said, look, we've got you dead to right. We've got a footage of you doing whatever it is. We're gonna give you 20 years, or you could tell us who told you to do this and show us the text messages. And they all go, oh, yeah, here you go. And,
Well, if you're these guys who are much younger than the president, are you going to risk some really serious time in the federal prison system for this guy?
No.
I don't see it. We won't know until the prosecution begins to lay out its case in real life just exactly who's agreed to what. So, can't wait.
But it's going to be really exciting. And one of the things also that we've learned about the way that Smith indictments seem to go, now that we've seen one of or several of them, is they have this wonderful narrative arc to them. Guy's a good writer, or his team is. Somebody in that office is a dynamite writer. And they take you on this story where every time you think, well, what about if there's a paragraph. It's like, just in case you're thinking there was some plausible explanation for this, here's why it's not.
Like turgid legal prose.
No.
It's got sort of verve and moves along. It's really pretty good stuff.
And it doesn't have to be that, because what you're trying to do, you need to make this digestible. Like, and right, I don't think the full public is looking into this and reading it. I don't think it's on, like, people wake up and they're digesting this outside of, like,
I mean,
news
you and I are.
Yes. But if you chose to, you should be able to read, because you're dealing with the president of the United States, or former president of the United States.
And you have to be able to make this not just for consumption of the newsy crowd. You have to make this for consumption of the people who get their news from People magazine.
Same with January 6th and how they and the hearings there. Again, very, like, you could that was produced impeccably.
You have to write it. You have to write it in a way that the people who listen to the FM morning shows can then read a little clip of it and get this idea out to the people who otherwise do not consume news.
Right.
You know? And so what we're finding out is one of the additional charges was about unsecured national defense information, which I think everybody thinks, and I'm not sure that this is true, is about the waving around the Iran plans and slandering Milley, because that actually happened in New Jersey. So I'm not totally sure what this is. There's probably some other instance.
But we're never going to find out in a lot of these charges exactly what the documents were.
Because it's all redacted.
Yeah.
Because we're not Trump and we're not stealing national security information.
Also, if they're still classified, which
they are,
the government's case relies on us believing they're still classified. Even his lawyers have to go through the process to get clearance in order to see the evidence against their client.
Right.
So there's a lot about this trial that we're going to end up not knowing.
Clearly, you've been listening to our show, because we did cover that quite in depth about how they might have to review this information inside the SCIF, that there is this there is a law, a federal law, that allows for classified information to be managed in court. I think it's called CISA or something like that. We looked it up. But that is part of the thing, is that some of this will never be in open court. The specifics of the document. But I think at some point, the severity of the documents, for lack of a better word, or the, severity of the risk the documents represent, I think will somehow be communicated.
I covered the trial of the first FBI agent ever accused of espionage against the United States. And that was a stop-start trial, because every time they came up against something that he had allegedly transmitted to the Russians, everything had to stop. They would approach the bench, whisper, sometimes go into chambers in order to discuss what it is that he was accused of giving this honeypot woman. And it was really kind of hard to cover, because you're trying to describe things that you weren't allowed to hear about. You're trying to describe the action as they joust over what's admissible and what's not, whether this was a high enough value document to not be discussed in open court. It was really something. And this was much lower level stuff.
Of course.
And we're talking about in this case.
The procedural aspect of this is going to be astounding. I mean, I think one of the things that over the years that we've learned, I think, in covering weird stuff in government, whether it's Congress, I think I learned an absolute ton of information, like watching the healthcare law happen. If you're not from D.C., which we are, but not everybody is, you don't live and breathe congressional committee protocol.
Markups.
Yeah, markups or what earmarks are. Yeah, all of this stuff. But, we live by this because it dramatically impacts the lives of Washingtonians, because, we don't have voting and all of that other kind of stuff. But more to the point is, when you watch the sausage get made, for lack of a better way to describe this, you can learn a lot about the process. And unfortunately, so many people intentionally don't learn this process. And then they get elected and get divorced, like Boebert and what's her name, MTG. Because they get to Congress and they go, all right, well, where's the little rolled up paper laying on the sidewalk? And they go, that's not how that works. And they go, but I saw it on the Schoolhouse Rock. And they go, no, idiot, that's not real. There's procedures, and you can't just say point of order and then call somebody a bad name. That's not how that works.
And that's, I mean, there needs to be a recommitment to like teaching
Civics?
just in general, because
Not in Florida.
because it's not because right, voters put these individuals in these seats, and the voters, maybe it's their right. I know some of it is like the ideals as well too, but also even for them to push your ideals, they don't even know how to do that. They don't know that. They go there and they don't
Thank
understand
God,
the I know, right? It's clear.
I mean, we've
They
talked
don't know
about
that.
that a lot
you want
too.
them to be better.
I
At
don't.
that job?
I just, in a way, I would be like, hey, I know, I don't want them to be better, but in a way, I would want them to be like, do you understand kind of how this system works? You understand how laws get passed? Just basic, like, do you know the 3 branches of government? Can we start there?
Well, so that's a great segue into this next story that we want to talk about, which is about Hunter Biden. So there has actually been a bit of news on that, which is that the plea deal sort of fell apart. He is technically pleading not guilty at the moment, but we're pretty sure that that's going to get flipped. What is interesting, though, is that, you know, on the Hill, the congressional Republicans in the House and Jordan's committee and all this have been screaming about impropriety in this investigation, even though this is Trump's appointed attorney who's still running the show. The DOJ and the Biden administration have been scrupulously not touching this with a 20-foot pole. They won't even talk about it.
Yeah, I've never heard.
They want to have nothing to do with this. And that has not stopped the Fox News world from spinning up this wild set of conspiracies, including, and I am not making this up, MTG bringing in porn clips of Hunter Biden onto a committee hearing and showing them to everybody, prompting the committee to ask, is this even like legitimately okay to show? I'm not making this up. She printed out screenshots of Hunter Biden's sex tape with somebody and showed them to everybody in the committee room and was like, look at this. And everybody's like, whoa, lady, I don't know what you do since Glenn Youngkin banned porn and you probably live in Virginia, but like, you need to not bring your materials into work. That's for you at home, you know? And Brian, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But it's, no, sorry, he's Bobert. He doesn't like, you like MTG too or just Bobert? Oh, okay.
Strong thumb down. Oh, God. Strong thumb down.
But okay, but the news on this, and this is probably going to get missed, but the actual U.S. attorney who was appointed by Trump, who is running this investigation, his name is David Weiss, basically sent a letter to Jordan and his committee and said, yeah, I want to come talk to you because all the stuff you're saying is bullshit. And he's like, when can I come and talk? Yeah. And they're like, well, we don't really want you to come in and do that. But
only Democrats would be asking him questions. The Republican majority on the committee wouldn't have much to say because they don't want water thrown on this fire. They want fresh wood.
Yeah. Gasoline.
Yeah.
So is this news that he has, that he's like, I mean, U.S. attorneys often don't really want to go talk to Congress, right? They sort of.
No, the less they talk, the better generally.
Yeah, so why does he want to go talk to them? I mean, this is a question I have. Why would he want to go talk to them?
Until he has something to say under oath, it's really hard to say. Everything about this world now is so irregular.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
The old idea where you could sit on a Sunday show and say, well, I think this is going to happen and this is going to happen because this is how it's happened the last 73 times I've covered this. Well, that's over.
Yeah.
that world is dead.
So you have to cover every time you're on the Hill covering such and such a proceeding.
It's like it's the first
There's
time
no
it
template
happened.
matching anymore. You can't sit. You can't look like, oh, I've seen this before. I know where this is gonna go.
Even having watched like Gates and Jordan and Comer and these guys for like a couple of years now, like have they developed their own templates or are they reinventing themselves as they go?
Well, Comer has an enormously high threshold for being contradicted on live television.
Yeah.
Anytime he goes on a non-friendly, that is,
let's say a real news show,
any straight news network, they'll say, well, that's not, they just punctuate every answer with, Well, I don't think that's the case, Congressman. And basically, it's that.
And then he just
Him-
walks right through it, or he.
Yeah. He
Word
just
salad.
bluffs his way through, makes really serious charges for which he provides little, and then gets off. And they keep inviting him back.
See, that's probably the mistake. Should we stop inviting people back on this show who lie to us? I don't know if we've ever had any of those.
I don't think.
See, that the business has tried to make a new bunch of rules in real time.
Yeah.
Because it's never experienced this thing where they're kind of rolling the dice that you haven't paid any attention. So they'll just say crazy stuff and say, maybe he won't contradict me. Maybe he won't have read that story in his file that his intern gave him where this will be spelled out as manifestly nonsense. It's worth a shot.
And so then but they're both sides are. When I say both sides, I mean the media and the people they're interviewing are both kind of complicit in this, right? Because
symbiotic.
The media is inviting these people back onto the show to lie to them all the time, and sometimes it looks to me like they're doing it because they think they're going to poke holes in it. Like I've seen, Chuck Todd is occasionally tough enough to say, "Wait a minute, that's not right," but
you can't rely on Chuck having eaten his Wheaties that morning.
Right, you don't know. He's no Tim Russer.
And part of it is that they make news when they come on.
Right.
When Robert F. Kennedy Jr. comes on and says that the virus was engineered not to affect Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
I got the virus, by the way, so it's like, didn't work.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's
for
a bad
CNN
thing.
that they had him on to say outlandish things.
I don't know. Look at
He made
what's
a lot
his
of
name that
news,
got
he made a lot
fired.
of headlines. He got a lot of ink, and I don't know. When I look at the business that I've spent my whole adult life in, I don't know what they're basing these decisions on anymore.
Well, it's not ad money because the CNN dude got fired, right?
So even just because we're
For
in
putting Trump on.
we're in this realm now. What would you say has been like the biggest form of like journalistic malpractice over the last decade? Like this, because I feel like there's a lot of them. Like,
I think the coverage of the 2016 race
that's it.
Platforming
was
Trump
just
at all.
egregious. For instance, Trump would be invited on to the Joe Scarborough and Mickey
Constantly,
Brzezinski show.
every day.
And once he figured out that he no longer had to come to 30 Rock, he could just phone it in, he came on all the time.
Yeah.
And they gave him basically millions of dollars worth of free airtime and gave his candidacy a lot of oxygen at a time when the sort of commentariat was saying, this guy, come on, the host of The Apprentice. Come
I
on,
wouldn't even listen. I didn't listen to half of these interviews because I'm like, what are we doing? Come on, I didn't believe it. I didn't think what
I was watching it and I was worried, sort of in real time because I'm wired to be that. But yeah, I think that sort of generally platforming the extreme fringe of the right wing to the point that it is now the mainstream plank of the Republican platform is an egregious penalty that the media
Well, the news
inflicted
business
on
didn't
us.
realize how the ground under their feet had shifted.
Shout out to Shifting Ground, KQED.
They were still playing by the old rules.
Yeah.
Not realizing they were now on a CFL field and it was an extra 10 meters at the end before.
Meters?
Hey, look.
And
Hold on, Ray.
look, he's gonna get upset.
We fought
He's gonna get
two
upset.
wars not
He's
to have
out
to
here
learn
getting
this
really
Mexican
upset about this one.
nonsense. Next, you're going to bring up pink money.
Yeah, if I bring out any type of foreign currency, he gets upset.
And so they covered it like a normal campaign by a normal candidate, where if you point out the times that he's done wrong things or said crazy things, well, you've done your job, and that's that. And they didn't realize that the world had changed in a way that made the stunning New York Times article on all the time he had stiffed small business
Right.
people. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It sent out no ripples. It was like throwing a rocket.
Didn't
into the
Fairholt
pond,
win
and
a Pulitzer
nothing
for all
happened.
of that reporting? Or that was post. But anyway, yeah, I mean,
Meanwhile, Joe and Mika and everybody else are just putting him on. They put on his rallies live
yeah,
with no commentary, with no pushback.
no context.
I was about to be a guest on MSNBC one Sunday, and I was about to go on. A producer says in my ear, "Well, we're just about to get Donald Trump live," and he's in Raleigh, North Carolina. They put him on for 40 minutes.
Just railing about nonsense.
And it wasn't news by any definition of the word news. It was just live broadcast of a Trump rally. I'm not really sure that they had thought this through. And we got, as a result, he drew an inside straight and a couple of 10,000 votes here and there and here, and he unlikely became president and now wants to be president again, even ready to run while under indictment. The business itself has not adjusted to the world that Trump has ushered in.
All right, so we wanted to talk about how Greg Abbott doesn't stand up for Texas.
Get out of here.
Because he's got his stupid buoys.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to know how he got him out there. You know he can't swim to go put them there. But that's not what we're going to talk about because Ray's brought up much more interesting stuff. So I have a question about with the media making this mistake on Trump, because it isn't as if this happened in a vacuum. They had basically batting practice with Palin, and Palin came out and said,
but they thought it worked.
Well, that's
we
what
did
I-
our
that's-
job.
that's-
She didn't become vice president.
so that's my question. Did they learn the wrong lesson from dealing with Palin and shooting down all of her bullshit and saying, you can't say that, it's not true, and she would just talk right through it and they would just cut her or whatever, and then that was it.
They didn't realize that her public was listening to that as a reporter being mean to Sarah Palin.
Yes.
And
Right.
coming away from it thinking, she's saying what I think, and look at what that guy did. He tried to contradict her. Facts were,
Well, that
put
was
to
the
the
beginning of
sideline,
it, I
yes.
think.
because I mean, if you think back to what you would say it was a John McCain rally, but if she was the one who was opening it up, if she was there, that looked a lot like what we saw.
Well, and
with
it's the
Trump.
same
Yeah,
thing.
it's the same. Yeah, exactly.
It's this red meat, xenophobic, racist, bigoted
Yeah.
word salad nonsense. Violent rhetoric. I mean, really violent rhetoric. And she's talking about hockey moms whooping people with sticks and all this kind of stuff. It's violent in its beginnings, and then there's this moment where Trump invites her to New York to show her New York, and he takes her to a chain pizza restaurant.
Famous Familia.
Yeah, and
Arguably some of the worst pizza in the Western Hemisphere.
then
And then they ate it with
and then
a
he
knife
ate it with a fork and knife.
Yeah.
So you're a native New Yorker.
Yeah.
How did that feel to you?
Look, it made the whole experience great.
It's because it's so funny.
To watch the two of them in Famous Familia eating pizza with a knife and fork was just, if they had just gone there, that would have been first tier.
It's sort of
But
like
then by,
peak.
she saying, well, I've got this New Yorker to show me the real New York. And they eat pizza with a knife
Sick.
and fork. That was top tier. That was
Sick.
absolutely transcendent escape velocity stuff.
That's amazing. Speaking of places you might want to escape,
yeah.
Florida. Okay, so we cover Florida a lot on this show, mostly because it sucks.
And also it seems like today's
Florida or not?
Oh God,
There you
sorry,
go.
I stepped all over that one, but it seems like today's Florida is tomorrow's America.
So that's what people say, but I'm not sure.
That's what Ron DeSantis says.
Well, that's what he's saying. So
Make
that's
America Florida.
Florida, yeah.
yeah, we covered that too. I don't know if
Jesus.
Brian's got the graphic of the hat, but it's
Oh,
pretty ridiculous. It says "Make America Lowrider" again
Yeah.
because he replaced the F with the picture of the state of Florida,
Yeah,
which
could be
does not look like an F.
no.
So anyway, Florida, they've been every week basically. DeSantis's rubber stamp state house there in Tallahassee has been just banging out these, I mean, for lack of a better word, toothless garbage bills that, I mean, they're not toothless, but they don't seem to they don't solve any problems.
They don't seem to help him in the polls.
And they don't seem to make him any.
It's weird. It's very weird. I don't know. Like he's running all these things.
Is it weird?
It's not, because it's not working.
Right.
That's why it's weird to me. It's like, all right, you can keep running what you think people want, and it's not working. No one likes you.
It's like Ron DeSantis is running like a rotten octopus tentacle stand next door to a McDonald's with a double drive-through lane. And he's like, I don't understand why nobody wants my tentacles. And there's
You
this
don't like
line
tentacles?
around the...
You don't like tentacles?
I keep passing more coupons for these tentacles.
Exactly.
And these idiots keep lining up for French fries and burgers. I don't get it.
Buy one, get 5 free.
Yeah.
And it's still no one shows
It's
up.
such a good deal. And also, why don't we ban trans tentacles while we're at it? You know, and he's like, they still want the burgers. But so this recent thing, this kind of ties to this sort of thing that we're in all the time, where we're having to explain that whitewashed history is bad for everybody. And so here he is.
And look, I mean,
But you guys are sports fans.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird own goal.
Yes.
Like, what's the point of all this? So let's say you really believe
Couldn't have
that.
said it better.
Let's say you really believe that, well, at least he learned how to become a carpenter. I owned Jupiter for 24 years, and he became a carpenter.
We should explain what you're talking about, but the new Florida law includes this bit where it says that teachers are supposed to teach that slaves learned valuable skills while being enslaved that they could then later use
the best
for
blacksmith
useful
ever.
things.
That's my time.
Taken 100% out of context of the greatest sin of American history, this one sentence is more or less accurate. It's true, people learn skills.
Okay.
Yeah, right,
That's
exactly.
true.
That's true.
A kernel of truth.
Seamstresses, blacksmiths,
Correct.
teamsters, yes, all true. But you say, oh, hey, that's a high voltage wire over there and there's no insulation on it. Should I go over and touch it or not? Maybe I should.
Maybe.
It is crazy to be having this conversation when what were you trying to say? That you're rebooting your campaign?
Well, he's,
So we're going to roll out the new, hey, maybe slavery actually accomplished some worthwhile things because Hercules was a skilled cook.
So
Jemima was a
Right,
seamstress,
exactly.
and like, yes, we owned them and we raped them and we beat them, but they did learn how to sew.
but eventually
lovely
those
seam.
songs were really good.
And you know what they did? They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps.
Bootstraps.
That's what they did. That's what they did.
But even if you believe that, even if you
Wait a minute.
believe it-
Even if you believe this,
Wait, I'm
nobody believes
speculating.
that.
No, listen, I don't-
Even if you believe it, you say, nah, not going to talk about that because I'm trying to get more people to like me. I'm trying to get more people to vote for me. I'm 30 points behind a guy who I haven't figured out how to run against
He's
him yet.
facing million indictments, and
So
nominally
is
DeSantis is
this
a
the
lawyer. He
thing-
should know better.
Is this the thing I really want to platform during my first week of reboot? No. Quick answer. No.
All right, so since he's rebooting, I mean, clearly what we can see in the signs here, although it hasn't been announced, is who his new campaign managers are, which is clearly Ben Carson and Kanye West,
Ah.
which would explain why, slavery was good for people.
I don't know why they're trying to get rid of the books and all this stuff, because you know why? It seemed like McGraw-Hill was doing a good job of whitewashing the shit beforehand.
Right.
They feel like, the happy immigrants and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what, it seems like if you read a textbook, I don't know, it's been a while, but most textbooks.
I had a Virginia education, which
Tell
is,
us about
is
that.
taking
Tell us
me-
about what
It
war
is taking me
did we
so long to unlearn about the war in Northern Aggression.
Ah,
it
that
is
war.
really difficult.
that was.
But it's funny because I'm seeing these things pass in Florida, and I'm looking at them going, "Oh yeah, that's the way I was taught this."
And Tez, the South didn't lose. We kind of all lost.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
but like one
But
of
then the brothers came back together. Yeah, right, exactly.
Because they were all blacksmiths.
Exactly.
yeah, they knew how to get
Exactly.
around. It's one of the most striking things that's ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
I was sitting at a bar in Staten Island, New York, and I was.
This story is
sorry.
great.
Yeah, I know. It's already bad. I was there because it was Easter and Passover. My wife's Catholic, and she's from Staten Island. So, okay, so we're up there for Easter, and it's March Madness, which is the real holiday that I celebrate. And so I've got to go watch basketball, and I can't watch it at their house. They don't have cable, so I'm going to go to the bar down the street on the corner. And I went there, and it's Passover, so I have to drink tequila, which is, sacrifice I'm willing to make. And I'm sitting there next to this guy, and he talking to me, about the game, and he can tell by the way I sound that I am not from New York at all. Or how do you pronounce it? New York. Yeah. There you go. Not from New York. He can tell by my accent I'm not from New York. So he's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Well, I live in Virginia." And God's honest truth, the next sentence out of his mouth is, "This country'd be a lot more better off if your side had won the war." And I'm like, you don't know me from Adam, but that's the first thing you're going to say to me based on my accent. That is an insane thing to say, sitting in a bar in Staten Island, New York, watching college kids, none of which are white, by the way, play basketball so that we can all make a bunch of money on it playing March Madness.
But aren't they learning a skill while they play the game?
Yeah. And you think it was about? And you think it is about your voice? About your skin color, buddy.
Well, yeah, but everybody else in there looks like that too. The problem is,
yes, you said
he
where you were
can't
from.
say to them,
hell no.
It would be better if the South had won the war.
No.
Because to them, they're like, "What do you mean the South won the war? Well, fuck those guys, But like, if he hears me and he thinks, by the way I sound, I'm cool with this position. I'm not cool with that position. That I'm just gonna be like, yeah, we tried, but y'all Yankees beat us. What do you think I was gonna say?
Like, you guys were right to riot against being drafted. That's right. So
I looked at my surroundings and made a calculated decision.
And
hence
I
I'm still here.
Gangs of New York.
Right? Yeah.
Was that a documentary or a dramatization?
Now, they'd have figured it out if I said dramatization.
It's
one of those literati.
Yeah, hell yeah, get him out of here.
Fucking reading. All right. This has been entertaining. That was Rundown, not how we usually do Rundown.
Better.
Much better, because Ray's here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a little break, because when we come back, we want to talk to Ray about actual things about Ray.
I've been trying to weave my questions.
Yeah, no, you're smarter than me, which is good. And we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with the second half of the show. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond. Swoops!
I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. My children aren't going hungry. I'll do it. I'll drink your blood. And I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors. You think I like size it up? I'm gonna haul him up back chain. Chop his ass up, size it up. I'm gonna haul him up back chain. Chop, 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 chop. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I'll barbecue your ass flat. I will cook your ass up so fast, and I'll tell them, "Oh, I killed a cow out back, baby." You think Christ would eat somebody? He would never do that. I will. I'm ready to hang them up, gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. That's why I want the globalists to know. I will eat your ass first. I swear. I'm sick of all these witches and warlocks and full of shit. Pumpkin possums. I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting.
All of it's lies. Because you're lying. That's why. Oh, there's energy and now we're done with Trump. You said he was the Messiah. You said he was invincible. I will not suffer your QP people after this. I knew what you were day one. I know what you are now. Witches and warlocks are full of shit. Pumpkin possums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of its lies. Because you're lying. That's why every goddamn thing out of your people's mouths doesn't come true. You said it was all over. You told us stuff. You. Oh, God. Witches and warlocks, you're full of shit. Pumpkin possums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of its lies. Because you're lying. That's why witches and warlocks are full of shit. Pumpkin possums, I'm sick of it.
You keep interrupting me.
And all of its lies. Because you're lying. That's why. Because every god thing.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond.
That was a treat.
I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
I first saw these videos on this show.
Yeah.
I've seen them many times.
Yeah.
I might hum these songs at inappropriate times.
Yeah.
During the workday, where I'm like, oh, I can't say that out loud. I can't.
Brett, what did you think of what you just saw?
He is an American original.
Yes, that's true.
Since Rod McEwen, there hasn't been a better lyricist. So, Alex Jones, man, what can you say about him, really? What can you say about him that a jury of his peers hasn't already said?
That's very, very funny. Okay, so if you are listening, that, of course, is the voice of Ray Suarez, who has been around a very long time. Not that we're calling him old by any stretch.
Christ.
I'm saying that because I don't think I remember a world without him. And this is in reverence of. Let's just say.
I don't know where this. Sometimes we let him talk too much here.
Okay, he's worked in media, print, TV, radio, and now in the podcast world, doing real podcasts. Won countless awards, anchored big name programs, reported from very high profile locations, and now of course
low ones.
He returns here to Chip Chat where he really got famous. Ray, officially welcome back to Chip Chat.
Great to be with you. Great to be with you.
All right, so when we last spoke, you were teaching or about to be teaching at NYU in China. Did you know there's an NYU in New York?
I went to it.
Oh, okay. Well, so why'd you all go all the way over there?
Well, it was different.
Yeah.
Gotta say, first of all, half the students were Chinese, which was not the case when I went to NYU.
Only half?
Yeah, that's the deal.
Okay.
Half the students, because NYU made an agreement with the Chinese government to open this campus in Shanghai, and half the students are Chinese nationals. About 30% are NYU students from elsewhere in the NYU world, mostly New York, but also Accra, Ghana, Tel Aviv, Florence, Abu Dhabi, there's an NYU campus. And then another 20% are international students who go to NYU Shanghai to get their 4-year degree.
Amazing.
A fascinating experience, really.
And what were you teaching them?
I was teaching a course called The End of Authority, Politics in a Post-Truth World. And
In China?
In China.
And they let you do that?
Well, that's part of the deal. As they told us on orientation day, the provost and the vice chancellor got up and said, when you cross the threshold, when you're inside these 4 walls, you're at NYU.
You're not
in China.
Wow.
And we took that to the bank. I mean, it was great. It was a great experience, and my kids were fascinating. Split halfway between Chinese kids and American
What did
students.
the Chinese kids think of truth?
Well,
I mean, could they handle it?
They are very well aware that their government lies to them routinely, or at least my students were. I mean, they self-selected. They took that course, so
Sure.
they were already of a certain frame of mind about this. And how to live in that world where you know the government is the only source of authority and information and truth, and also shuts down people's social media accounts, censors and removes their tweets from the online world. They are growing up cautious and cagey and interested in what the world outside China is like. So it was fascinating to meet them, fascinating to teach them. It was a great experience.
So 1,000,000 years ago, before the internet was like how it is, and it wasn't social anything, I was in, I think it was 8th grade, and we got a new student. She had moved here from China, and she lived around the corner from me. And I asked her, what was it like during Tiananmen Square? And she said, what is that? And I said, how did you not see, 'cause she lived pretty close by. How did you not see the tanks rolling down your streets? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She never knew it even happened.
A lot of kids won't even say the word. They say the events of 1989.
Right.
Which, that's a caution that they didn't even have to observe when they were with me and we were in classroom discussion, but they would
It's
use
just
that
so
term
programmed.
anyway. Yeah. I mean,
That's the wildest thing. Go ahead, Ted.
What does the Chinese government get? Like, what is the win for them to allow not only NYU to like be there, but then to have that threshold where you can?
Why would they allow this to happen?
What do you like?
for the country that wants to be the country of the 21st century, they are aware that their university system is not world class. Of the top universities in the world, none are in China. So there's Georgetown is there, Duke is there, Cambridge and Oxford are there. Before Xi Jinping really had an iron grip around the country, a lot of these initiatives began when China was throwing the doors open
They're
and
trying to
saying,
seek legitimacy.
let's see what the world has to offer. Let's get our kids educated to the highest standard possible. And there's also a passion and obsession among Chinese teenagers for getting into name brand American universities.
Huh.
So they are applying to the best schools in the United States. And if they don't get in, it's considered kind of a shame. It's a very, very competitive, tough, and demanding high school world that these kids are in.
Even
And-
more than here. I mean, because here
Oh,
it's nuts.
Much more than here.
That's crazy. I
Much
mean, it's
more
hard to
than
think of something more intense and competitive college admissions in the United States. And yet, they're trying to get into our schools though. They're not. I mean, they're not even concerned about getting over here and living here and all of that kind of. They just want the
Not
Georgetown
even just
name on their thing.
right. It's Georgetown, it's Stanford, it's Harvard, it's the top tier schools that they want to get in.
You know, they could come here to
And-
Beltway Radio University. We'll teach them.
Chinese parents, many of whom only finished high school themselves,
Sure.
are very well aware of what the best American schools are. And this is quite widespread all over Asia. I mean, I was in a cab in Jakarta, riding down a street, and there was a great big billboard for Kumon Math because they and an
It's
SAT
one of those next to my grocery store.
and SAT prep.
Right.
Because they want to, the aspirational parents in all these places want to get their kids into top
Into American
American
schools.
universities.
So this kind of gets to this this article that the Post had this week that I sent you to take a look at because I think you can understand it better than I can, based on your experience, in China. But also one of the things that you've been covering on your shows is the intersection of age and the workforce and how people are sort of having to work longer because of the way that things are going and all of that stuff. And that was mostly focused on Americans sort of struggling with that. So,
But also the French. I mean, look at
Sure.
what happened over the past year in
well,
France.
we've been talking about that on this show a lot. Tez seems to think that the French are very tough. And I keep reminding him that the people rioting are imported.
He does
They're,
say that.
they're not original French.
Like me being British.
You are British.
Yeah, I am British, yeah.
You're
Not
weird.
English, though.
No, but you've got, well, you're American now. But anyway, so
Damn right.
there was a story in the paper this week, I guess it was earlier this week, that was about how the Chinese economy is having trouble emerging out of COVID, and that their growth rate is slipping to a measly 6 or 7%, which if we were growing at 6 or 7% in America, would,
crazy.
not only that, you think Jay Powell's
Jay
raising
Powell,
rates now?
it'd be
Jesus
insane.
Christ.
Yo.
He'd be hiking them a point a day.
It'd be-
Slow down, everybody. Like we just hit 2.4. The story just came out. one of our favorite things on this show to do is to pretend to be Kai Ryssdal, and
Yeah,
so
that's our favorite thing.
we're not
Does
saying,
Kai know?
Yeah, he knows.
Okay.
He told us to knock it off, but anyway, so we talk about economics on this show a lot. We even did a whole segment where this is boring, where we were name checking economists.
It was so boring.
And everybody hated it.
It was the most boring segment we ever did. We were talking soft landings and
But the thing about China is their economy for the last, basically, I would say 20 years, maybe a little longer than that, has been focused on trying to grow the middle class, trying to build a consumerist economy, trying to lift people out of poverty, and they've been really successful.
Yes.
I mean, they've moved millions of people out of poverty, but there's still millions more left behind. And the story here that was highlighted was how the unemployment rate for 16 to 24-year-olds hit a record of 21%, and that was just what was reported. And we know that you can't trust the numbers out of there. So, like...
It's like baseball stats now.
Yeah. We'll get to that later. The whole thing is, it's not falling apart yet, but this rapid building for the sake of building and this idea of the emerging middle class of China seems to be fading a little bit. So based on your experience covering economics, covering jobs, and being in China, can you put some context on what it is that we're learning this week?
Well, China made some bad bets.
Oh, I'm so glad.
They-
I'm so glad he guessed.
They, for a long time, allowed the real estate sector to be one of the engines of the economy. Okay.
Tip for everybody listening, by the way, don't make real estate the engine of your economy.
Right. But if you do,
If you do,
you have to have accountability.
right.
So if lenders make bad loans, if investors and builders make bad decisions, they have to eat it and they have to take the haircut. But right now that sector is so over-leveraged that if they let the marketplace play out, it would take down the whole Chinese
Oh, it
economy.
would wreck everything.
So they can't do it. So right now the government is shoveling money and support to keep up this rickety superstructure of an economic bad bet that they made. They have also baked huge year-on-year growth into their assumptions about everything.
Right.
So when you miss your target and post only a level of growth that would be the envy of the rest of the world, you're actually underperforming. And there are a lot of kids who can't find work. And in a world where information is controlled, statistics are controlled, people only know what to think from talking to each other.
Right.
There is a yeasty, vivacious, hot online scene in China where they use coded language and memes
Winnie
and
the Pooh.
emojis and Winnie the
Yes.
Pooh,
Yeah.
among other. Well, Winnie the Pooh will get your account
I was
taken,
like, yo,
taken down right away.
Yeah, whoa.
Don't
And
tell Xi Jinping, but my kids have Winnie the Pooh decals all over their walls.
there is a very, very efficient information network that is not official in China. So in late November, when there were demonstrations in all the Chinese big cities
Against the lockdown.
against the lockdown and the very severe pandemic measures, the government tried to bottle up that information, and it got out into the world. It got everywhere.
Immediately.
Video, reporting from the scene. I witnessed one of the demonstrations, and it was a shocking thing to watch in this country where everything is really buttoned down. To see these young people standing out on the street, defying the police, yelling slogans at them, and every time the police started to push around the protesters, they would start to sing the national anthem, and the police would back off. But they only backed off so long. They did this fascinating thing. They slowly built a perimeter. They shut down metro access to that part of the city. They shut down
So nobody could
could come in. No more buses came in. They blocked off all the major streets leading into this neighborhood and built up the police presence. And once they reached a certain level, it was almost like somebody snapped their fingers and it was go time. And they started hitting people, throwing them in trucks, carting them away. And it was a very illustrative thing to see the BBC radio reporter in Shanghai getting arrested, a white guy.
I saw that.
And he says in Chinese, I'm a reporter. I'm not a protester.
He's
and
showing him his press. He's got
showing his
press.
credentials and all that. And they just threw him in the truck and took him away and held him till the next day. And when the BBC asked for an official explanation for why this had happened, the Chinese authorities just blandly said that it was for his own protection so he wouldn't get COVID. And they don't have to.
Brazen.
Right. They don't have to tell you the truth. They're not waiting for you to laugh in their face. They know it's ridiculous. They know you know it's ridiculous. You know they know that you know it's ridiculous.
That's weird.
But they do it anyway.
It's some sort of weird, like, who's on first kind of government.
Well, they made a deal with the Chinese people.
So that's
you
my
let us
question.
be in charge of everything,
We're gonna
and
be
we will make you
authoritarian.
rich.
And you get to, yeah, right. But that's
And
crumbling.
the deal worked for 30 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
generation.
the average income in Shanghai is 40 times larger
Sure.
than it was in 1989.
So, and that youth now doesn't know a time that wasn't that either, right? So now they're like, well, what do you mean that people were like poor? What do you mean? I
You're
don't
in the
live-"
supermarket and you see a teenager with his grandmother.
Right.
His grandmother is this tall because they had episodic famine when she was a
God,
young girl.
caloric intake.
Man-made famine.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the grandson is huge.
Oh, God, yeah.
This happened in 2 generations. It's a
That's
miracle.
fast.
They should be taking a victory lap, but they are much more invested in being in charge. So it's a fascinating country. It's a remarkable country. And if they had a little bit more self-confidence about the amazing things they've accomplished, they'd probably be a more lovable country.
So the American position on this has sort of long been some version of, we're going to let them be repressive and still trade with them like relentlessly. I mean, they are our largest trading partner, I think, besides Canada maybe, and like, they're the second largest economy, and our position has been for a while, let's let them get rich. And once they have a middle class, the middle class will demand democratic reform.
that is not just for China.
Yeah,
that's
the
been
American policy
American
everywhere.
way for
And it just
decades.
So here we are kind of at this crossroads where the economic growth is now maybe faltering. It's not as sustainable as it was. And the people are in small bursts suing for democracy, in terms of these protests and things. I mean, they did get the COVID restrictions lifted. The government realized that they could not keep a lid on this any longer. And as media has
Do they want
democratized,
democracy or do they want to be rich? Do they want
they
the deal
want
of being
stability and rich.
rich?
Well, let me tell you, I spoke to freshmen,
Okay.
and they hadn't been through the 4 years of education. They hadn't spent a year, as they're required to do elsewhere in the NYU system outside of China. So they were, raw recruits, in effect. And they are proud of their country, proud of their government, very sensitive to the idea that a foreigner may be criticizing their country, and I get that.
Right.
I
Yeah,
get
I'm touchy
being
about that too.
17 and 18, and I get
Yeah.
that.
Like, we talk all this shit about, things we don't like about America.
But someone talks shit
let
about
Canada say something. I'm like, hey, shut up, Canada.
Yeah, I get to say that.
Right,
You
that's
don't
right.
get to say
We're
that.
American, not you. Yeah. Even though they're North American. That's a whole other
Yeah.
So, there is a deep deposit of belief that the government has delivered for them among a lot of Chinese. So I wouldn't exaggerate
So
the
this thing
desire.
isn't working.
And they also believe that the disorder of the West and the chaos and the messiness and the accidentalness of it is something that they don't have to suffer with.
Is that true, though? I mean, is there
But see,
not
do we-
accidental?
But
Is
wait
there
a
not
minute,
Do that as
crimes?
American.
Is there not-
That's an American.
But think of
thing
what
that-
they see on their national TV networks.
Right.
They see a New York that's a crazy hellscape, and Los Angeles that's
But
disorderly
is
and
Beijing or
crazy.
Shanghai not that?
Oh no, I could walk everywhere in either of those mega cities with bills hanging out of every pocket without a second thought that anybody would take
Really?
anything from me. Yeah.
And I think as folks in this country, we sometimes look at these other places and like, well, why don't you? You can't feel great about your country. Look at all the things they do. Well, they're like, well, hold on. Oh, like things are cool for us over here. Like,
No, I get that. I understand why they could be proud of their country. I mean, the economic achievement alone is staggering.
Yeah.
I'm not downplaying that at all. The opportunity
But they also approve of a life that's more,
controlled and authoritarian.
well, they wouldn't use the word authoritarian. They would use orderly, perhaps, and less accidental. And
Well, the Germans have that too, but they still have
but
democracy.
isn't there a contingency in this country that seems to be? They would be fine with that. They
Well,
would be
so
fine
that's-
with one
that- that's
person
kinda where I'm
doing all
going.
the one rule.
That's kind of where I'm going with this. Does the right wing of America, the fringy right wing, the modern Republican GOP, Trumpist, authoritarian concept, does that mirror the Chinese concept? And does it seem like these folks are willing to submit under authority or sort of trade?
well, those
that
people that you're
chaos
talking
in the
about here
same
in
way?
America also want a gun rack in the back of
Well,
their,
right, so
their
they're-
car,
they're-
and
Good point.
they want to be able to take their gun to church and to the doctor's office and to the shopping mall.
Well, that's fine.
That's not
sometimes your
China.
Store.
Sometimes your gun is sick,
You know?
and you need to take it to the doctor.
No, that golden retriever might
It's
act
been
up.
it's been burping up bullets. Doc, help my gun. No, so it's a different kind of enforced order.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
Do you think that?
When you see cops getting on a train after the demonstrations, demanding young people's phones so they can look at the phones to see if there are forbidden apps on it. I mean, that's a moment where you realize, oh, yeah, there are different countries with different approaches and different philosophies about all this stuff.
And the people kinda
yeah, I mean,
comply with
America's America, and a lot of other places ain't.
And look what our open internet gave us.
That's later in the show.
All right, this got a little. Can I ask some less serious questions?
Yeah.
All right. What's your fondest memory of growing up in Brooklyn?
Interesting segue.
The dog.
Exactly.
well,
We're gonna get it. Exactly.
Can I wrap this one thing up? Like, what opportunity are we going to have to ask somebody this experience with that intersects with this much of this story?
Okay. What was the right? Bring it home.
The last part of this question is for the aging workers in China. What is the outcome here?
See, China has
Because their population's upside down.
a demographic disaster waiting to happen. The impulse to enforce the one-child policy was perhaps explainable, perhaps understandable, but once you did that, and importantly,
Don't have any immigration.
no immigration.
Right.
Take notes.
High
Take notes, damn it.
high degree of suspicion of foreigners, a very, very highly attuned antenna for when someone's a foreigner. You are going to have to take that demographic anomaly right in the chops, because now it's coming. And I was listening to a military analyst the other day explaining why China has to invade Taiwan by 2031.
Because they need people.
Or else they're just not going to have enough young men to pull it off by the late 2030s.
Wow.
This stuff, it's a crapshoot, and China made some choices that aren't paying off right now.
Would it
But
spell disaster for the American
I kept
economy?
when I would ask people,
There's the question.
my son lives there and loves the country and loves Shanghai and loves the culture and has had a blast there. And I met his circle of friends, and whenever I would get to know Chinese people in his circle of friends, I would ask them, do you have any cousins? And it was just an amazing reminder of how different life can be there.
Because we all have cousins.
Cousins and aunts and uncles, 4 human beings
Right.
had 2 children. And those 2 children had one child.
Jesus.
So they
And
don't have cousins.
They have no cousins and have no aunts and uncles. Many millions of Chinese.
This is a recipe.
no-
I've never even thought about
This
that.
is a recipe for like a global catastrophe for economics.
So what happens
Right.
if this demographic collapse causes China to collapse? What happens to us?
Well,
I mean,
they
we
are
need China.
they are going to have some problems staffing
That is a selfish
factories.
question, but that is the question. What happens to us if China falls?
Well, we didn't have to orient our consumer economy
fair.
about,
Yeah,
about
right.
our importing stuff from China. But we did.
But we
Like
have.
cheap goods, man.
Let me tell you, before the China joined the WTO, I actually had sneakers.
Right.
Yeah, real ones.
And
Yeah,
after China has its problems, if it has any
You'll still have
problems,
sneakers.
I'll still have sneakers and microwave oven and all kinds of stuff. China made itself the world's workshop,
Yeah.
and they were clever and strategic and aggressive and smart, and they were brilliant, and they did it. But that doesn't mean the world can never adjust again to a world where China's labor costs start soaring
I mean,
because
they
there
have
aren't.
already. You see
Right.
things moving to
Yeah,
Vietnam
and
and
if we look,
Bangladesh.
if we
and
look
whatever.
at some of these private companies, I mean, these companies are diversifying their supply chains of where things are coming from. I know Apple's a big one to move things to India, Vietnam. I mean, that is happening as well.
But
too.
Vietnam is another repressive regime and sort of similar. Altogether, what we're looking at is if the sort of low-cost labor environment that is coupled with authoritarianism that produces the order and stability that makes manufacturing in that location attractive, that covers everybody, falls apart, we're all pretty FUCT.
No, I don't think so. I think there'll be gradual adjustment. You know where most of the world's young people will live in 2050?
Africa.
Africa.
Right.
And when I was in a discount store a couple of years ago, looking at marked down men's jackets, and
Made in Zambia.
Lesotho.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Lesotho is a tiny,
Little tiny
impoverished
country.
backwater country.
Do they even
And
have
they
a
were-
million people?
Yeah, but
Just
not
barely.
much.
Yeah.
And much of their population is out of the country at any one time
Right.
because they're migratory workers.
Yeah.
And the world's supply chain had actually gotten to the point where a men's jacket was being made in Lesotho and finding its way to TJ Maxx. And I thought, if you go into Brooks Brothers and you look in the collar of a men's shirt, it's made in Malaysia. Some are made in Mauritius.
Yeah,
a tiny island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and they're getting the cotton there, and there are the big machines and the seamstresses and tailors and everything, and they're turning out men's shirts and men's jackets. The world's hunger for cheap labor knows no limitations. And it'll get to the Central African Republic, and it'll get to
So
Zambia.
capitalism
it'll
will
get to-
find a way to get around
You
this.
betcha.
All right, thank you for letting me close this. That's a good segue
I mean,
into
we would talk about this for the rest of the
stuff
show.
about, getting nice suits is a good way to talk about Brooklyn. So let's go ahead and talk about Brooklyn.
So, yes, back to that fondest memory of growing up in Brooklyn.
Well, I love the place dearly, still to this day. I'd move back tomorrow. If my wife is listening to this program, she doesn't want to move back.
Pay attention.
Several things that I will remember till the day I die. One is being on the train heading into Manhattan the morning after 9/11. And there's a point at which the IRT breaks out onto the Manhattan Bridge when you're coming out of Brooklyn.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
The Manhattan skyline opens up there. And now, in place for the first day of all of history, in place of the Twin Towers, there was just a column of smoke rising from the site. And people are talking on the train, and the train went silent. It was almost as if everybody at the same moment turned toward the window and looked at Lower Manhattan, saw the smoke, and remembered, yeah, this isn't like any other day. a lot of my memories are much fonder.
Yeah, I was
than
going to say,
that.
that's a
But
heavy one.
That's one.
You know, because from the burning towers, office paper and all kinds of stuff, there were papers landing on my parents' lawn like miles away from Lower Manhattan, on their front lawn
Staten
in
Island
Brooklyn.
had too.
Yeah, it was really an amazing event that sort of pulled this crazy, jangly agglomeration of 8.5 million people into a tight embrace for a bit. Anyway,
What else do you like about Brooklyn? Because my family comes from Brooklyn. That's the Jewish homeland, of course. If anybody doesn't know,
it
where we all come
includes everything. Everything that you want, that you could hope for, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, wonderful, special, is all there in those 72 square miles, 2.5 million people. It's just an amazing place with an amazing history. When I was a kid, there was a red sandstone mile marker that had been put up by the English after they took over New Amsterdam from the Dutch. And somehow it was just allowed to sit in this park.
didn't have a cage or anything around it.
It had a wrought iron.
Like our cornerstones have all those.
And I would look at it sometimes, especially as I was no longer a little kid and now a teenager. I'm thinking, you got to get that out of there. Somebody's going to take that or mess it up or something. But it sat there for 250 years.
Nobody.
They finally moved it to the Brooklyn Historical Society, where it is now. But just an amazing thing. You'd think, yeah, look at this thing. It's been here since this was all farmland, and there were nothing but horses and carts and rutted, muddy paths in this. And now I'm in this dense, busy, buzzing world with this little red sandstone marker.
We have those here in D.C. The
Benjamin Banneker stones.
Yeah, we've got all those stones, and they demarcate the line. And actually, some of the other municipalities and counties have them. I mean, Alexandria's got a few. Where the whole diamond was. They're all over the place. The line that is Arlington. They're there. They're totally sitting there unguarded too. There's nothing there, and people really don't mess with them. They mostly don't even know they're there.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
Doesn't this country hate history anyways?
Yeah.
Wait till they find out who put them there.
No,
Benjamin Banneker. Whoa!
That guy.
Gotta whitewash those stones.
Have you ever went anywhere else in the world and seen something and be like, that should be like, that was from like, it should belong in Brooklyn, but have you seen it somewhere else in the world?
No.
Brooklyn's that unique.
It's
like if I saw them playing go-go music in Paris.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd be like, yo, wait, how'd you get here?
How do you have
I mean, there are places where when I'm there, and my wife and I have been to a lot of places around the world, and we'll walk down a street and we'll say, it's like Brooklyn.
Okay.
This is like Brooklyn.
I was in Binghamton, New York, and I walked into this place, and I saw a bottle of Capital City Mumbo sauce. I was like, where'd you get that? And the guy was like, we got it at the store. I was like, that's our stuff. I mean, it's the bottle version, but that's our stuff. How did you even know to get that? And he was like, I don't know. Somebody just got it. Like, he didn't have any legitimate. I was like, give me that. Give me that.
I'm
sauce.
liberating that.
Yeah.
Right.
He's coming back with me.
In the name of the people of the District of Columbia.
Yeah, that's right.
Your first book was on like urban flight, right? How did you experience that, like growing up? And then what are your views on like gentrification?
When I was a kid, it was remarkable because you're a kid. You're 6, 7, 8 years old. You can't necessarily explain what's happening, but you know that there are moving trucks everywhere, and there's different kids. Every September, there are different kids in your class and all that. I mean, you know something's up. But nobody gives you a document and says, okay, here's the deal.
It's called gentrification.
People are moving out as fast as they can load up the trucks.
I don't understand this.
It was, so you knew something was up, and later on, I found a name for it, and I understood what was going on. White flight was real, and it had real impact on my hometown. Gentrification, which came a couple of decades later, also had both intended and wonderful and kind of crappy effects. If you were a renter, you got it in the teeth. You had no way to defend yourself. Landlords would let buildings get run down to try to drive you out so they could then fix it up and turn around and rent it for 3 or 4 times the money that they were renting it for before.
That's still going on, by the way.
Oh, yeah. So there were, but if you were an owner, if you had managed in Bushwick, in Greenpoint, in East New York, in East Flatbush, to buy, you did well by gentrification, because people would come in from other places in the country and offer you what seemed to you at the time to be crazy amounts of money, and you would leave. You'd go to Long Island, you'd go to northern New Jersey, you'd go to the places where you didn't think you were actually going to be able to go, really. And so gentrification reopened certain places in New York City that had become tough places to live. Everybody knows, though not everybody will cop to, the fact that city services decline in heavily black and Latino neighborhoods.
It's just what it is.
The garbage doesn't get picked up. The policing is different. The maintenance that the city does is different. And when people with political clout and a louder voice start
you
to
can say
move
white
in,
people. I'll say it. When white people move in,
when they move in, you start to get more attention from the city. And your streets get more effectively and more regularly cleaned, and the police come faster, and stuff happens. And for that
schools
window,
get better.
for that window, if you're a black and brown renter or homeowner in those neighborhoods, life becomes better in places where it had actually started to get pretty bad. You know, the neighborhoods that burned after the 1977 blackout in New York City are now gentrified.
Sure.
And it's a bizarre thing to think that people were, you know, in full revolt against the conditions that they were living in the late 70s. And now people are selling those apartments and those apartment buildings for, you know, 7- and 8-figure sums. It's turned around in a way that's kind of unbelievable. This blasted, neglected, forgotten waterfront, which is an amenity.
Sure.
A view of the East River and one of the greatest skylines in
skyline,
the world.
sure.
You think, yeah, well, yeah, that would be a good place to have an apartment, sure. Finally, these places have been rediscovered. Brownfield sites and Superfund sites have been cleaned up or at least ameliorated, and they built housing, and it's fun to be there now, and they built new parks. A lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened without gentrification, and that's the tragedy of it.
That
A lot
is
of
the
these are
tragedy
things.
of it.
A lot of these things are things that should have happened without having to do wholesale displacement of legacy populations. You know, now there are people complaining about Puerto Rico Avenue in Brooklyn because they don't want the name on the street anymore, and they want to go back to the old name because it means nothing to them.
Because there's nobody
And
there.
the few Puerto Ricans that are left are saying, no, you are not going to change the
That's
name
the
of this
one in
street.
gentrification. They love to start renaming shit. Like
Yeah.
here in DC,
What the hell is Noma?
Well-
I hate it.
What is
It
Noma?
makes me so angry.
We're here now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's like, what do you mean? It's like, no, this is not. It's New York.
They started renaming metro stations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's-
and everything is some kind of Bethesda.
Well,
now.
that's
The
real
whole red
estate.
line
That's
is
real
Bethesda.
estate talk.
It's weird though, because if you're from here and you hear them talking about, oh well, something this happened in such and such neighborhood, you're like, well, where is that? I've never heard of
What is
that.
that? I don't know what that is.
And then they show you the map. I'm like, that's not what that place is called.
It's you know, I was talking to because when gentrification happens, if you're lucky enough to be able to stay there, you're like, well, shit, I would always have loved this coffee shop down the street.
Yeah.
And like I was trying to, a lot of black folks always see like the coffee shop is like, all right, well the neighborhood's
That's it.
gone.
Yep.
And I was talking to we have interns at my job, and I was talking. I was like, you know, coffee isn't a white people thing. I was like, you know, that's like a black and
The entire world drinks this.
And like,
You know, it's
And
from
it comes from
Ethiopia.
yeah, like, you know, like I get why you might think that, but like we can enjoy coffee.
Remember
as well.
back when we had cabs?
Oh yes.
A million years ago, we had cabs in DC, and a lot of them were driven by East African guys, and you could find the good coffee shops by looking for the cabs, because there would be 150 cabs all parked there, and they're all waiting, for something to happen or whatever. And in the meantime, they're all just sitting around drinking this incredibly intense. I could smell it from a block away, dangerously thick coffee, and shouting at each other. And I don't know what they were shouting about. I didn't go back bother and ask, but they, I don't understand. How did coffee become white? That is a weird thing.
It's a very interesting thing, because it's.
It's when they started adding milk to it, of course.
Well, I would say it starts with slavery and them, getting the beans, and then the whole coffee shops in England, and
why is there coffee in Colombia?
Everybody used to drink ale when they used to go to work, and then they started drinking hot coffee and sugar, and you get an enlightenment, and then.
We had a whole revolution.
It's a different show for that one.
All right. Tell you what. Here's what we should do. We should take a quick break, because we're almost to the third half of the show. Brian's gonna love it.
Brian, you just seen the face he fucking made. He's gonna rip out the computer.
When we come back from this break, we'll do the third half of the show in rapid succession, so Brian can go home. Does that seem fair?
That seems fair. I have way too many questions.
Yeah.
On this,
Otherwise, we could just go on for days.
We go to 1 o'clock.
All right, and we have to play the song, hopefully, that will explain about selling vitamins. So we're going to take a break. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
Okay, it's true. I stayed up late last night, so I had half the turbo force this morning. The vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. The vitamins, the minerals, the amino the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. The vitamins, the minerals. That's turbo force. 5 different types of caffeine doesn't have a crush. 5 different types of caffeine. That's turbo force. 5 different types of caffeine doesn't have a crush. 5 different types of caffeine. That's turbo force. Plant derived 500 milligrams slow burn. Very bad on the long burn. Plant derived 500 milligrams slow burn. Very bad. That's turbo force. I'll tell you what, I'm feeling a lot of energy. My brain's sure working good right now. Good right now. Good right now. We work out next level turbo force. Turbo force. We work out next level turbo. It's turbo force. And get the fish oil. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, succubus with goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. Dump it. Charging into a goblin's nest, some goblin vomit and slop and blood on it. Especially up to his ankles. Trump charging into a goblin's nest, some goblin vomit and slop. Goblin vomit and slop. I'm not expecting him to not get dirty slop. Kissing goblins. Ingratiating goblins. Succubus with goblins. In bed with a goblin. Kissing goblins. Ingratiating goblins. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin. I just don't want to catch him in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's poppin', yeah?
All right, hanging out with us is Ray Suarez. Say hi, Ray.
How you doing?
Okay. Now we're going to do this weird thing where we're going to pit Brian against Tez.
Oh, we're actually doing this. We're doing this.
We're going to do it in a short.
Answer all my great questions I have.
Short version. Well, yeah, we want to do other stuff.
I know. Sorry.
Okay, we want Ray to watch us do ridiculous shit on this show.
I'm not asking questions.
One of the important things to know for this bit is that Brian hates children and public transportation.
I'm the opposite. As
And
my
Tez
friends call me,
loves
my
children.
friends, we were having dinner the other day. They said, you know what? Someone came.
It for public transportation and children having use thereof.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's me.
So the important thing to know is that in DC we have the Metro. The Metro has these weird gates that you put your fare card on and go through. In a million years ago, you put your fare card in and it popped up the other side. They're pretty easy to evade. A lot of people do. And they either just hop over them or they just sort of push through them or they double up or whatever. So Metro was like, hey, don't do that. So they announced that they were going to make newer, harder to defeat gates.
I remember seeing when they were debuted. Yes.
And now they are out. And it turns out they are much easier to walk through than the old ones.
Oh, great.
Like miles easier. I don't know if Brian's got the video.
I had a video, but it's unable.
But basically, all you got to do
Just
is
push it.
turn sideways and kind of lean on it a little
it's
bit
gone.
and
It
just
opens up.
slide right there.
And here's the thing for Brian is the paying citizens that are going through the turnstile. Once someone does that, it doesn't work for you. So you try to pay, and then you're there, and then there's a line.
And it doesn't work. And you're
Doesn't
like,
work.
I don't want all these people behind me. So then you go through it. I'm not saying I go through it. Okay.
Look,
So
One might go.
one might go through it. So all
there
right.
have been times I text Brian that one time I jumped
Yeah.
it. I was like, I'm about to be late. The shit's not working. I'm jumping over this thing.
But
so
the thing
point,
is, you got to
counterpoint.
do it at the other end, though. That's the.
I hit my car the other end and I let the system figure it out afterwards.
Yeah.
So I still paid.
Kinda. But
Kinda.
you're as you
Kinda.
as you say, you're the idiot subsidizing all these other people.
I don't even think that. But yeah, I do sometimes.
You do say that.
I do say that sometimes. I'm paying for all the other folks.
All right.
Which I'm cool with. I like it. Look.
So here we have point counterpoint. I don't know which is Jane the ignorant slut, but
Here's-
somebody is.
Here was my idea to fund all this shit. The video that we were gonna play is very boring. It's people just pushing through it, getting it's not. There are a lot of Metro fails when
Yes.
people are trying to jump over these things, falling down, and
It's funny stuff.
and it's a Benetton ad. Like it's not just like most folks be like it's black and brown kids that are
No,
doing
no,
it.
no.
No, it's you got people in suits doing this shit too and
Yep.
falling down. We have a YouTube
Congressional staffers.
We have a YouTube channel. We put folks up there when they fall down, and we sell ads on the YouTube channel. People will laugh. It'll be and also too, people don't want to be embarrassed on the internet. If WMATA starts putting this shit on the internet, people will stop jumping them because they don't want to. Now some are gonna want to be the TikTok,
I don't know, 136,000 views.
Yeah,
says,
some of us
some
really
of
love
us
to
might
be
would
on.
wanna
Yeah,
be.
you might make a contrive a fall or something on there. But I think we can get ad money by people falling as they jump over these turnstiles.
All right, Brian, counterpoint.
Pay your damn fare.
Good,
Jesus.
good point, Brian.
Especially, the worst part is...
Should I? If it's fair?
Hold on, you got 5 minutes.
God,
Let him have
I
like
know,
at least
it's
2.5.
sorry.
All right. The worst part is the weekend. I do not understand. You cannot pay to and from wherever you are a minimum of $4. I just don't get it. I saw a guy, kid you not, over on during the barbecue battle on a Saturday.
Shout out to Giant.
Yes. Guy had a McDonald's combo pack with drink. Skips over the damn thing. Wait, dude. That McDonald's meal is almost $10. You couldn't do additional $2 to pay your fare to go
He
in and out of the
spent his
Metro?
money on food.
I knew
Spent
this
his
was
money
coming.
on food.
You're not supposed to take food on the train.
Yeah, you're not
All right,
allowed
but you
to.
gotta
I'm
train it.
certainly
No,
not in the
you're not
Metro.
supposed to- You're not supposed to consume food on the
Yeah,
train.
yeah, you
And
can
was
carry
sucking
it.
They
up
consume
that-
it.
He was sucking up that Shamrock Shake like it was nothing. Trust and believe these fools, they don't give a shit. And I'm
Some
sick of
might
it.
not.
Wait a minute. I just
Some
want to
might
point
not.
out how
This is
badly
blank.
Brian walked into the obvious thing where Tez is going to be like,
sick of
"You're
it."
making people choose between
Food
food
or
and access to
transportation.
the train."
Insane. When do we become the society? I know when.
When?
Right? A long time ago.
When have we not been the society?
Exactly. That's even a better question. First of all, the damn shit should be free.
Right.
Should be free. This wasn't our idea anyways.
Should be the feds paying for
Yes,
it, by the
there
way.
you go. This
the
wasn't
federal
our idea.
workforce that depends on this. All right, so now that you two have made your case, let's ask somebody who rides a real subway system for most of his life.
Yeah.
Because the Metro is
But
a joke.
also, I
compared-
ride the Metro as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
You've
you.
been here a
We
long time.
appreciate
But
your patronage.
I'll be on
compared-
it tomorrow morning with no McDonald's.
Compared to the New York subway versus the Metro, like there's fair jumpers in New York, I'm sure.
You
You
bet.
know, and so how do they handle it?
They don't really handle it. You just get where you're going, especially since there's no barrier at the other end. There's
Right.
nobody checking where you got on in order to calculate
But it's
how
only
much money
one
you
price
owe.
to get on the subway. It's not a
Right.
distance-based system.
Right.
So if we had a not distance-based system, which to Brian's point, the weekend is not a distance-based
not.
system. If we had a flat fee system, there would probably be a lot less of this because the volume
Yes.
of the people who
Yes,
pay
that's true.
offsets the people who are jumping, doesn't it? Mostly in New York?
I would think. I mean, revenue is way down, and fare evasion is way up.
But New York doesn't have to go to 3 different jurisdictions and beg for money the way WMATA does.
No.
That's another problem. We have no
Crazy
dedicated funding
Frankenstein
stream.
monster of a board and a tri-jurisdiction oversight.
Which
and all
does
that.
not include the feds, by the way.
Federal government wanted this shit. This is for them. This is why it was created. It wasn't created for the people of Washington.
Well, it's not like the
I'm
people of
gonna
Washington
bring
could
back
vote
what-
against it.
I'm going to bring back what Chip said. Statehood.
Statehood. That's right.
Because then you,
The solution to this is statehood.
So then you can lock them all up, right? You can throw the key away. Exactly. That's why you want it. Look, anyway.
All right, so the stations who are about to get this upgrade that is not an upgrade, it definitely makes it easier to get through the gate.
I exit Fort Totten all the time, and
It's Fort Totten. That was the first that got it.
that was the first one I got.
Right?
Yeah.
Next is going to be Pentagon City. That's a very well-used station.
I see
think
what
the
they're doing.
Pentagon is the number one station in the system in terms of entrance and exit.
It should be.
I think it is.
Should definitely.
Metro Center, I think, is the number one for total transit. Bethesda, not a small station. Mount Vernon Square,
They doing it in Bethesda too?
yeah, huh? Maybe there's a bit of demographic shift in Bethesda.
Working against type there. That's-
Okay, look at this.
Putting a name on it. Oh no, fixed it back to Addison Road. Congress Heights. Okay, Wheaton. Wheaton's a little browner than black.
Wheaton gentrifying.
Yeah, they got big
Big
buildings
buildings,
now.
yeah.
So yeah, they took out the Crispin Juicy. All right, Federal Center. That's everybody. The high volume, and then courthouse.
Well, of course. Of course.
Right.
Of course.
But how ironic is that they're going to make it easier to evade the fare in courthouse, which is in Arlington, by the way. That's
because
not.
when you evade it, then they can take you right.
Yeah, right. You're going to go right upstairs.
Metro transit cops are sitting right there.
They're right there. Oh, God.
Additionally, WMATA says it stepped up enforcement efforts, and then like DC tried to pass the new bit to like criminalize all this stuff, but then that got defeated by the Republicans in Congress. And Metro Lyft provides a 50% fare discount to customers who qualify for SNAP benefits. So there's Brian's question about food versus transportation. You don't have to choose unless they get rid of SNAP benefits.
Hand out some of these damn smart trip cards with money. I'm like, hey, because again,
Remember when you got them in school?
the issue is going to be is that you're going to spend more money fixing these things if people break. That was always my issue of people going through the old ones. It's like you're going to break them and we're going to have to fix them.
Ask
and
a
it's going to
maintenance
cost
guy.
more money, and then he's going to. Well, who's our new guy out there who replaced?
The guy who quit in the middle of nothing?
Yeah, and who's
I
that
don't
new
know
guy?
who
I'm
the
blanking on
new
guy's
sacrificial
guy.
lamb
He
is.
rides. He's just there. But again, he's gonna say we don't have any money. The fare's gonna have to be raised.
Which will then further depress ridership
Yeah.
and incentivize driving.
It is called public transportation. It should be supported by public dollars, which should
And
include
viewers like you.
And
you.
when it's 105 degrees, maybe that might concentrate people's thinking about emissions a little bit. Just
Maybe.
a little.
You would
You
think.
should stop driving cars yesterday. But
Look at these dead-ass birds.
Look at these dead ass birds. Look at these dead ass humans. It's about to go.
That's
through
right.
Soon.
We'll have to play the sound. All right. So now we've come to a segment called Raised Takes.
Oh wow.
This is a bit of a play on words. We used to have this great restaurant around here called Raise the Steaks. I don't know if you ever went there.
I thought it was about the Tampa Bay race.
And then there was Raise Hellburger. And then there was Raise the Catch. And these were all different, burgers, steaks, and seafood. You get it.
Greatest segment we've ever had.
They are really good. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna read these basically ridiculous news stories to an actual journalist who knows way better than we do, and see how stupid he thinks we are. Okay, the first one starts with our favorite idiot, Elon Musk.
Woo!
Okay,
X.
so over the weekend, last week, Twitter rebranded its name. They're called X. My app still shows the bird, by the way. It hasn't updated.
An update will happen.
And this is after Elon bought it for $44 billion and basically made it inoperable and crashed the system and all of that stuff.
How else can a phoenix be reborn?
Yep. Interestingly, though, X seems to have a number of people holding that trademark, including Microsoft.
And Meta.
Furthermore, yes. See, he's read ahead. I didn't even have to send him the script. He's better than you.
Got me. That's just low bar, friends.
Furthermore,
I just read it
today. it gets better. When Elon announced that Twitter would go forward with the new X name, his company did not hold the @X handle on Twitter. There's a guy named Gene Wong, a San Francisco photographer, who's held it since 2007. That's even older than us.
That's back when it was just
that's
Jack
like
and the
South
guys
by
doing
Southwest
it in Silicon.
Twitter.
Yeah, but but that's probably the
South
core.
by Southwest.
Yeah, that's probably the core set of.
Well, he's San
Silicon Valley
Francisco,
guys. Yeah.
you know, so that makes sense.
Jesus.
He received an email from the company that he had suspected might be coming. X had taken the handle and offered little in return. Quote, I had suspected this could be an outcome, and as such, I wasn't too upset. The email left Wong with few options. It said he could have his pick of any unclaimed inactive usernames, like @ChefChip that was taken from me after wishing Ted Cruz well on his bout with polio, along with some smaller perks. Additionally, quote, as a reflection of our appreciation, we will also provide you with a selection of X merchandise and an exclusive visit to X's HQ to meet members of our team, the company said in an email. The message was signed simply X.
Not even a free blue account.
Not even, right.
Not even a free blue account.
All right, Ray, how stupid is this?
Well, it's right in the great chronological order of him doing things since the day he decided he didn't want to buy the place and had to be forced into it by a lawsuit. It's been nothing but this kind of stuff ever since. You think, really? A world historic genius is wrecking a $44 billion company for giggles? This has been one of the most puzzling stories imaginable.
You know, for journalists, Twitter has been basically this reimagining of journalism, right? It provides you this opportunity to get stuff out on the fly. I mean, in some cases, I joined because I was watching the Iranian attempted revolution happen in real time on Twitter. And, you know, Scott McFarlane, for example, who started with Channel 4 covering the January 6th stuff and then moving on. Now he's at CBS. And, like, for journalists getting the stories out, Twitter has been a lifeline, and for connecting with sources, I'm sure it's been incredible.
It's been a tool, but it's also been good for readers and viewers too.
Sure. So
to find out, I can't tell you how many times people who aren't in the business said, "Oh, that's happening. Let me look at Twitter," and to ruin that just 'cause is a weird flex. I've never understood it.
Did we mess up though by making like Twitter what it
by making it too important?
Yeah, because like a private company having that much control at this point, I mean, it was a public company.
But it didn't have control. That was the interesting thing. It was a Ouija board with a million sets of hands on it, and people were just moving stuff around. Twitter didn't really control that much. I know the narrative that's emerged since the Twitter files.
But you're bullshit, by the way.
Most days, it just sort of rolled like a boulder coming down the mountain with everybody sticking their nose in and their 2 cents. And it was a fascinating, often weird world. But now it's just...
Now it's kind of garbage.
A bizarre shooting range.
I loved it. I thought it was
for us,
out
it was
of
great.
all of the platforms that I've grown up with, that was the one for me, specifically, again, for like being able to reach out to whoever and you might get them to be able to respond.
never had a fraction of as many people signed on as the other big platforms.
Yeah, so because I think everybody who was on Twitter, and I never felt this way, but it felt like a lot of folks who were on Twitter felt that the rest of the world,
entire
was,
world
like,
is on Twitter.
Like it almost sometimes you would think like, well, why wouldn't you know that? And they're like, well, I'm not on Twitter. And like it's a small group of
What do you
people.
mean you're not on Twitter?
And it's like, what? Why wouldn't you be on Twitter?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much great. But it sucks because specifically around journalism, that's kind of how I gravitated towards it. But I feel like one thing should, like, I don't believe in like the public town square being on any of these platforms. I mean, it was that. I think it's very scary when it becomes just this one place because as we see, someone can buy it, destroy it, and now we're all looking around like, hey,
What do we do now?
I'm literally looking around like, I mean, I think even on Blue Sky the other day, Celeste Headley had a great, like, she was like, this doesn't really feel like I put things out and I don't get the same engagement from this.
Yeah, it
and
just
like,
doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like I'm getting the bounce.
Yeah, and it's like, well, one, we got to take time to rebuild something new.
That's right.
And
I got 2 invites if anybody wants.
Yeah, likewise. I have 2 as well. If you want to come on Blue Sky, where all the flaming liberals are at. They let you have crazy N-word handles anyways, but it's a whole different story anyways. But no, because I really enjoyed that platform, but it felt like the people gave it power, and it had power, and this lunatic decided to get it, and now he's ruined it.
It kind of gets to this question that we had initially planned to ask Ray, which I think is now worth sort of asking, because Twitter, we're talking about the great national conversation, right? And which has to happen, whether it's call-in radio shows as it used to be, or whether it's people writing op-eds as it was before that, or letters to the editor, whatever it was.
This evening news, I know that's something
But
that doesn't happen.
No,
really, and people
but
watch,
the way that people would talk to each other across platforms, they would write letters to the editor, and people would read them, and then other people would respond to those. That's early version of Twitter, right? And then it becomes call-in radio. You call the DJ and say, hey, this is what's going on or whatever. If you listen to Decipher on PFW, sometimes, Holla Back turns into that. Like, it's a great public square, but it's self-selected. Twitter was maybe doing a better job of spreading that out far and wide, but we do have this problem, this question that we ask a lot of our smarter guests. When the Trump fever dream breaks, when eventually this weird cult that has absorbed half of the country falls apart, we are going to have to reintegrate those people into American society. They are operating in the real world, but they are also operating in this alternate universe where they have this whole different set of reality and stuff. They still use the same phone lines and same electric cables and highways and everything else, and they expect their visa. Yeah, and they expect they jump the fare metro, and they expect their Visa card to work despite the fact that they hate the globalists or whatever.
It's everywhere you want to be.
But at some point, great line. At some point, we have to reintegrate those people, and we have asked.
Well, I have a problem with your premise.
Okay.
I think the Trump era, not Donald Trump necessarily, but everything that the Trump era has brought with it, has been a symptom, not a cause. And we were building the platform for this weird post-truth world long before he came down the golden escalator in the lobby of Trump Tower.
We've said similar things.
And that broken social consensus, which predates Donald Trump and will live on long after.
We fooled ourselves into believing existed, I think, for a long time.
No, it was still operable. We were agreeing on less and less all the time, but at least we were standing on solid enough ground where we understood that what was real, we may have agreed on what was real and disagreed totally on what to make of it, what to do about it, how to see it, all that. But at least we were grounded in what was real. Now we're not even grounded in what was real. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are wondering, this is Pinot Noir.
It is.
It's not adrenalized blood, even though I am trying to stay young.
That's right.
As I collect.
And we have a brown-black Jewish coalition here. So if Alex Jones is watching, I'm sorry. This has got to be terrifying you.
But there are millions of people who believe that there's a tiny global cabal running the world and that babies are having their blood harvested, but they're being terrorized first so that there's adrenaline in their blood before it's drained from them. They believe that there's vast networks of boldface type named people, not obscure nobodies trafficking children, but internationally known CEOs and heads of state and all that. There are people who believe in comet ping pong.
God damn it.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
That's how you know he's lived here long enough.
They don't even have a basement.
Right. It's a slab building.
They don't have one. Been there many times.
Connecticut Avenue. There's no basements. Okay, anyway.
There's no amount of reality. As someone who's been trying to explain the world to people in order to make my living for 45 years, there is now no amount of calm, straightforward,
Just the facts, ma'am.
non-hyperbolic explanation that's going to make someone who believes that billionaires are drinking babies' blood now reorient themselves to what's really happening.
But those people
in
are
the
still
world.
out there, so what are we going to do with them?
They're just among us now. It's like having a low-grade fever. They're just part of the deal now. I think they're with us.
So we're never going to reincorporate them into like mainstream society, or they are incorporated?
They
into
are
mainstream
incorporated into
society?
mainstream society. They're with us for the long haul, those people.
This is it.
This is it. I watch.
It's not going to get fixed?
No.
I look at those
Sorry.
individuals.
Why did we bring you on this show? I was waiting for you to tell us that there's a solution.
I look at those individuals and it seems like they're longing for some type of like camaraderie, a community to
This
be a
is what
part
Celeste
of.
Headley's always on
And
about.
like I don't know, I want to bring them in. Like I'm like, hey, buddy, you don't gotta believe that shit, man. We
Like,
can drink
I'll
a
take
beer.
you around. Let's I'll show you the basement in
yo,
Comedy Ping Pong. There ain't no
There's
basement.
no basement, yo. Hey, like.
I'll
Again,
take
you
you
think
and
black
get some
people are
pizza.
doing real great and they're taking your jobs? I'll take you around. Like some folks are doing bad.
When I post pictures, I'm in New York a lot. When I post pictures of things I see there, and say, hey, I'm in New York this week. It's great, blah, blah. Immediately, my feed fills up with lunatic posts about how dangerous it is and how can I be there, and it's a crazy, blasted dystopian hellscape, and, all this stuff, because they believe that America's cities are just burning to the ground. During the George Floyd demonstrations, I posted some pictures of what I had seen when I was down in the demonstrations. And people said, well, you're lying because you're not showing the burning buildings. And I said, well, there are no burning buildings.
There's nothing burning.
And one idiot posted this picture taken from above downtown of all the mercury vapor lamps that light the streets, that make it look like there's a yellow glow coming off the streets. Look, DC's on fire, man. What the hell are you talking about?
Go look at Fairfax City. They've got the gas lights in Fairfax, too. I mean, that's the same thing.
And I said, look, why would I, if it was on fire, I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs, holy God, the capital of the country's on fire. It wasn't on fire.
I was there.
Down there all day, and there was one broken window at a Starbucks, smashed.
Might happen.
Bad coffee.
They smashed the Starbucks.
I was down there.
They
You know what I
shouldn't have
remember?
done that.
It was really hot. There was a lot of singing, not all of it on key. And, there was a lot of people in fatigue standing around sort of watching us walk around
But if
singing.
you're at the point where you're a guy with 35 followers
Yeah.
on X,
Well, let's just be clear.
and
I had 1,000 before Ted Cruz took it away, but okay.
and a guy who has spent his life talking to millions of people, telling them what's what, says, I was just down there. This is what I saw. This is what it's like. Here's the National Guard. Here's the people who are marching. And he says, no, it's on fire. And you say, no, it's not on fire. What are you going to do with that person?
What are you going to do with this
He wants
person?
to believe it's on fire. It's not necessarily, well, yes, he thinks you're a globalist idiot and in the pay of the Jews, yada, yada, yada. But,
Hashtag the Jews.
well,
along with the blacks.
We're right here.
You know,
Hey,
Hashtag the.
once you get a definite article, man.
Yeah,
there you go.
You've
You
done
made
well.
it. You've made it in this country.
Hey, proud of myself.
You know where I messed up? Because you on Twitter have some of the greatest comments to like other folks when they say like they'll post something. I enjoy.
I am a champion subtweeter.
I
'cause don't wanna-
enjoy you.
Yeah,
you,
there
and
you
Tom,
are.
you and Tom Nichols is probably
Yeah,
my favorite.
yeah.
You know that you know someone he'll post
George
something.
Conway too.
Conway, you did. So I erred in not having tweets to ask you about today. The next time you come back, we're gonna have you explain your tweets. That's
If there are tweets by then.
Well, yeah, your exes.
My
Exes.
exhales.
Your
exhales.
Your exhales. That's
Hashtag exhale.
exhale.
Okay. There's a wall for sale in Georgetown. You want to buy it? It's $50,000. It's just a wall. It's not even a freestanding wall. It's just a wall on the side of some lady's house.
It's got square footage, but it's
Yeah.
up like that.
Apparently,
so you
some
can't
dude
even
bought
live in
it
it.
as a joke, for like $200 and some odd back in the '60s, just so he could say he owned something, and he'd take dates by and be like, "Yeah, see that wall? I own that." No resolution. There's a bit of a kerfuffle on that one here.
If the woman who owns the other 3 walls tries to sell her house, if he's got real title,
Well,
this
they're
could
in,
be complicated.
No, she owns the 12 inches on her side of the wall, which is where. Interestingly enough, though, you should know her last name, Walls. I am not making that up.
Say no more.
It's
a
really
setup.
really really funny.
It was written.
Okay, Ray, you got a new book out? It's about to be out.
It'll come out in April.
What's
It's
it called?
We Are Home, Becoming American in the 21st Century, and it's about the modern era of immigration to the United States. And it's really fun and interesting and moving, and I think you should buy it.
Yes, you should. Tez is going to buy it
Yeah, of course.
on our behalf because he reads and I don't know how to. All
Well,
right.
I have an audiobook coming out
Yes,
the same
that
week.
I'm gonna-
reading.
I'm
Did
gonna-
have we broached that?
That's
yet?
a whole
Is that
different.
reading?
We'll have him back next week. He
All
can
right.
talk about that. All right. What's currently shifting the ground at KQED these days?
We're doing really well. Not only do we have the weekly show on KQED, but that show is distributed to about 50 other public
We're
radio
hearing it here on
stations around the
WAMU.
country. And it is also 2 weekly podcasts. So look up on Shifting Ground and listen. This week, what are we talking about this week? We're talking about, because they don't necessarily drop them in the order that I record them, so I gotta.
They
I
don't
gotta
tell
take-
him in advance.
You're behind the 8 ball every week. Like I might have recorded
That's
this.
not
might
fair.
come
It's
out.
sort of like what happens when Tez reads the show.
It's on
Thursday nights.
on APEC, on the Asia Pacific Economic Conference, and about how if everybody's looking out to advantage their own workers using free trade, how does that work? If the American ambassador wants to advantage American workers, the Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesian ambassadors are going to
Cooperation breaks down.
Yeah, so it's an interesting program. It's with an interview with U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai.
Very good. Okay, we'll have to ask you about religion the next time. And then the other question is, where can everybody follow, tune in, get the books, and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, I think it's easy enough to go to World Affairs or wherever you get your podcasts and just type in on Shifting Ground. Also, listen to 2 seasons of Going for Broke, which has won a shelf
Dynamite stuff.
full of awards. Very good about downward mobility in America and the challenges of trying to make it at a time when a lot of people feel the pie isn't growing for them. And also, if you are a caregiver or someone who's had a diagnosis, the things I thought about when my body was trying to kill me, which is an 8-part series on surviving cancer.
Dynamite stuff. Okay, you hear the music, which means we've come to the end of the show. It's worth noting the O's are in first place, the Nats are in last place. Go ahead and check that out, everybody. Fist's new record comes out this weekend. I'm going to be there at the Hip Hop Shop to go to the listening party. You should be there too. Nigeria has a white girl on their team, which is interesting.
Affirmative action.
Yep. Brian Halloran's got a
Diversity
new record
high.
out. Go check it out on Spotify. All right. We want to say an immense thank you to Ray Suarez for joining us.
Yes,
You've
thank
been
you so much.
amazing.
Great to
It's a
see you,
huge deal
fellas.
for both of us. We can't wait for you to give us Terry Gross's phone number. We also want to thank all of our radio partners and Ray's, of course, KQED, Stitcher, Economic Hardship Project, and all those guys. Thanks to NOTN for keeping us on for another week, we assume, although we haven't checked. Thanks to our digital media meatball, Isaac Elam, for all the videos, and thanks to our home on the interwebs, coplaymedia.com. And thanks, as always, to our family here at Beltway Radio for making us sound as smooth as Jay Powell's Soft Landing. Okay, where can everybody get you? On the Twitters and stuff.
You just find me at DC Cortez on Blue Sky.
All right.
Oh, wait, I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
And on X, at Ray Suarez News.
There you go.
If you still go there.
Yeah, right, and you can find
We
us.
all still go there.
Find us on Facebook or Instagram at Rip Chip Chat, and you can find us still if Twitter exists on Chip Chat RR. You can find us on the threads and the blue skies. Just search Chip Chat and Chef Chip. It's all there. All right, I'm Chip. That's Tez. That's Ray. That's Brian. You've been listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond. Sweet.